Before we get into this episode, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. You can hit the notification button so you can get updated weekly on all of our latest content. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, tell us what you want to see next below.
I was at a dinner party and I was just making nice, talking to the guests. And I asked this one woman, what do you do? She tells me what she does. She goes, but that's just my day job. I'm writing a screenplay. I'm like, oh, amazing. What's it about? She goes, I can't tell you. I'm like, why not? She goes, because you might steal my idea. I'm like, I'm not a screenwriter. I'm not going to steal your idea. She goes, I don't tell anybody. I'm like, well, I really want to know. Because I think that's amazing that you this is your passion. I want to know what you're writing about. And she's like, no. And I was like, you don't know who I know. You could tell me your idea. I'm like, that's the most amazing idea I've ever heard. I'm going to introduce you to a producer I know, right? But she was so afraid of somebody stealing her idea that she won't get the benefit of all the connections that everybody else has in the world. And so I tell everybody all my ideas. I tell everybody everything I'm up to. And it turns out most of my success has been not because of anything I know. It's because somebody else has said to me, that's amazing. I need to introduce you to somebody. And it's the game of telephone of other people's Rolodex, not mine, that helped advance all of my thinking, all of my books, everything I've ever done was only because I just, I'm open about it.
I think about it in the context of when I think about, I come from a different lens, not as much of the creative lens, but from the company lens. You have to build momentum and get buy-in, not only from people outside that would either be your customers or your listeners or your viewers, but also from the people within. You can only have so much momentum and roll the ball so hard by yourself.
Yeah.
It's so if you don't, whenever I get pitched to people and I don't want to tell you your idea and you got to sign an NDA. I'm like, if the idea is so flimsy that if somebody else heard it, it could be totally derailed.
And execution is the thing anyway, and a friend of mine was starting a business this years ago, and he wanted to tell me. So we go close the door in a conference room, and I'm like, I said, do you want me to sign an NDA? And he just sort of smiled. He goes, people who ask you to sign NDAs only have one idea. He goes, I got lots of ideas.
That's why someone's like, are you worried about them copying the idea? I always say that. I'm like, it's okay. I've had their ideas. While they're spending their time copying, I'll be on to the next.
I've, people have stolen some of my ideas and, but they can't execute them the way I execute them. And even if they do a good job, it'll be different to me. So turns out there's a market for multiple things. This is the other thing. I've gone through this. And by the way, this is not how I've always been. This is something I've learned. I used to be much more competitive and be like, oh my God, somebody else, there's another author out there and, I'm in competition with him. And it turns out people can buy more than one book. It's fine.
I totally agree with you. And there's also sort of a scarcity mindset around being like, I can't tell anyone my idea. It's not abundant to me.
Yeah.
I had a guy that I worked with in the early days when I got into internet businesses. And I was the same way. I was like, oh my God, someone's going to know. And he's like, Michael, he's like, you're not going to corner the internet.
Mm-hmm.
He's like,
exactly.
He's like, it's not going to happen. He's like, no matter how big you are, he's like, you're not going to corner the internet.
Michael, he's the one.
The one guy that sells things online.
I think sometimes people don't want to share their idea because they're scared that if they share their idea and they don't do it, because a lot of people have ideas and they don't execute on them, then it's it makes them feel insecure.
This is supposed to be a technique to keep you accountable too. You make these announcements on social media or you tell all your friends and now they're your accountability buddies and they're supposed to check in and be like, how's the idea going? And maybe it's a personality flaw. It's never worked for me. I've announced many things. I'm going to do a triathlon and all my friends are like, and I put a picture up on Instagram of me going to the beach to swim and, in my wetsuit and I'm going to do my triathlon and people are like, hey, whatever happened to that triathlon? I'm like, yeah, I didn't do it. I just don't care.
Next time you come on the podcast, you'll have done a triathlon.
No, I don't want to.
So Simon,
and no amount of sort of accountability partners and posting it will make me. I'm not going to get shamed into doing a triathlon.
Post those shirtless shots that people do. Okay, quickly, Simon. I said this to you off air, and I want to say it again for people that listen. So I was a terrible student. Never could really do well. And my teachers my entire life have been books. For whatever reason, my dad taught me to read at a young age and I've been a voracious reader. And
I think
that
that's
reading,
just good parenting.
I know.
by
What
the
do you
way.
mean? Oh my God, poor you.
No, but you'd be surprised.
My dad taught me how to read when I was young.
For whatever reason.
And I'm forever grateful to him.
You'd be surprised when people don't read as much anymore.
No,
He's
I
like,
don't
you-
read.
No,
I mean,
he's
you know.
not surprised.
But,
He knows people don't read as much anymore.
My teachers
should.
have been a lot of the times authors, and in my self-learning of books, I came across Start With Why years and years ago. I'm so sad I didn't have the earmark version. And that book, amongst others, I attribute to a ton of the way that I think about building businesses, setting them up, success, and I think largely the office we're sitting in, and I told you this off air, is partly because of books like yours, because it gave me the framework not only to create the company, but more importantly, honestly, how to build the culture.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when people, and maybe in the company will chime in at some point, I found it was so hard for me to motivate people just by incentivizing through pay or through whatever it was. It was easy for me, not only from external but internal people, to get them to buy into the mission and to the reason. So like for Dear Media, it was like very much about amplifying female voices. We did it through content, and it was able to aggregate all sorts of different talented people that came in, different advertisers, different partners, different shows. But really, like, the idea stemmed from reading your book.
Thank you.
And the way that we framed out the messaging. If that makes sense.
I love that. I mean, look, it goes back to what the first chapter of that book is, which is I talk about manipulation versus inspiration. You know, you can motivate people to do all kinds of things, and you talked about money, and it absolutely works, but for a very short period of time. You know, when you give something to people to believe in, to contribute to, that is a much more infinite source of fuel.
Out of all the brands and digital brands that you've seen, who do you think has the strongest why?
Digital brands.
Yeah, meaning like maybe there's some brands that are like
any brands, could
D2C,
be.
any brand.
Well, digital brands are, I think, quite interesting because, especially digital product, it's one of the things that I find fascinating about the internet. It is inherently intangible. You can't touch it. You can't visit it. You engage with it through a screen.
Yeah.
And what I find so interesting is people don't seem to have a lot of loyalty to digital brands. So like, for example, like a lot of us use Amazon, but none of us are loyal to Amazon. Nobody loves Amazon. If something cheaper or better came along, we'll all leave. The barriers to entry are really low, but so are the barriers to exit. And like Amazon came out with a phone. Do you want to own an Amazon phone? No, right? Like nobody wants it. And I find that really interesting that internet businesses, at least internet product, tend to be much more transactional. And if something better, cheaper, faster came along, you know, we all use Google until something better, cheaper, faster comes along. Well,
Like you wouldn't wear
Like,
an Amazon sweater
no,
because you're not proud of it.
no.
But you would wear a brand that you really
So
love.
I call it the swag test.
Okay.
You can always tell if you have a strong brand with the swag test.
Okay.
Which is if you give definitely employees, but hopefully customers as well, if you give them a free T-shirt with your logo on the front, will they wear it to sleep in and paint the house in, or will they wear it to a barbecue on the weekend? And if they wear it with pride out of the house, that means that you have clear values associated with their brand, and it's a reflection of who they are, not the company anymore. This is what, you know, clothing brands attempt to do, which is to infuse their brands with all kinds of meaning so that people will happily wear the brand name on the outside because they want everybody to know, they want everybody to see. Usually it's associated with conspicuous consumption and wealth and things like that, but there are plenty of brands that aren't expensive that we want to associate ourselves with. Harley Davidson is the perennial favorite. You know, there are people who wear Harley Davidson clothing and have a, you know, Harley Davidson tattoo that is a corporate logo you have tattooed on your arm. Like nobody has a Procter & Gamble tattoo, you know?
Where's your tattoos, girls?
Yeah, exactly. So I think the swag test is such a good test. Like I have a friend, I love him. I love who he is. I love everything he does. And he has these really amazing events that he does, and he gives very high-end gifts, like fancy jackets and fancy North Face, blah, blah. And he puts his logo on the outside. I'm like, dude, I'm not wearing that, and I love you. Like, I don't want to wear your company's name on my jacket. I will never wear that jacket. I will wear it like to paint the house in, or I will give it to charity. So I said, put the logo on the inside.
Yeah.
I'll wear it every day.
Yeah. No, you're so right. It's also what I'm noticing too is, and I don't know if you've seen this, is there's this thing happening where people want the if you know, you know, meaning like if you wear a hat and it's like, I'm just making this up, a yacht club in Palm Beach.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's like a symbol of the yacht club on it.
Yeah.
You like wear it proudly. I also noticed, have you seen like people are wearing like hotels?
Yeah.
It's like there's like this whisper of like understated, like, if you know, you know, I go here.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting how you can signal to other people something that it's like a dog whisper.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's membership, right? And every human being, it's deeply seated in all of us. It's cross-cultural. Every single one of us wants to feel like we belong to something. And it's what drives a lot of good behavior and bad behavior. This desire to feel like we belong. Because you have to remember, human beings are social animals. We are not very good by ourselves, right? In fact, being by ourselves is completely scary. Like we consider solitary confinement a form of torture, right? You can't take a social animal and remove the people. Or if you want to take it a step further, like gazelles, like us, are social, and their survival depends on, taking care of each other, or elephants, or any of these animals. And, if they always put the old or the sick on the outsides of the herd when they're eating, always. The young are kept in the middle. Why? Because if a lion attacks, you don't want to have all the young ones get eaten, because then the herd will die. It'll last one generation and it's over. And so they put the old and the sick on the outside so that the lions will eat the old and the sick, right? So when human beings get pushed to the outskirts, when we get ostracized or mocked or feel like we're being pushed out of a group, that fear it's the same fear, like I'm being put out to be killed, right? It's the same, which is why the desire to belong is so intense. And we were all teenagers. We said stupid things and did horrible things and were mean to people. Hopefully not, but none of us, I'm sure we all have stories of things we said, or twisted ourselves in knots, or went along with something, or went to a party that we didn't want to go to, just so that we would be liked, just so that people would think of us as insiders, because it was too stressful to be an outsider. And that's sort of what companies are trying to do. Like, and it goes, and it's fashionable. Things go in and out of fashion. Like sometimes we want everybody to know, and sometimes if you know, like that's just the fashion right now.
Right.
And it depends on economies, conspicuous consumption, quiet luxury versus loud luxury. I mean, it goes in and out. But the thing that's always constant is our desperate desire to feel like we belong. And this is the opportunity for companies. It's also the opportunity for friendships, that we make our friends feel like they belong. It's the opportunity for, social things that are happening in the world. And this is why we want to wear logos or badges or things that say, I'm a part of this group. These are my values.
On that note, we're more connected than ever, but many report feeling lonelier than ever. Why is that?
Because the internet is we were literally apart. I mean, this, which is there's a reason you invited me into your studio. Yep. We can have the exact same conversation, and I could be on my computer and you could be on yours.
Totally
and
different.
The content would be the same, but it just wouldn't feel the same.
Nope.
It's like watching a simulcast of a concert at home on your TV versus going to the concert, right? Which is, again, it's embarrassing that we even have to talk about this. But as social animals, in person is a thing. Like all of the chemicals in our body that signal to us, this person is trustworthy or untrustworthy. You're forming relationship. You're forming, trust. Whatever it is, like, it comes with the ability to shake hands. It comes with the ability to look somebody in the eye, which is different than looking somebody in the eye on a screen. And there are some that think that the technology will eventually exist. I'm cynical. I think that the human being is a legacy animal. We're hundreds, tens of thousands, 100,000 years old. And we're a legacy machine living in a modern world, but nothing about us has been modernized. Our system, our firmware has not been upgraded since cavemen.
When you say technology, you mean like there's technology that'll make it feel like we're together even when we're not?
There, some will believe that we'll get to the point where, eye contact with a screen will mimic eye contact with a screen. Mimic eye contact in real life. And maybe I'll be proved wrong, but I think that nothing can replace a hug.
Yeah,
would you guys date And this is a question for Taylor too. I feel like I know the answer. If they can make a woman that will look you in the eye and feel like she is just listening, giving you the Nancy Reagan stare, which is she's so interested in every single word that you're saying, and she's hot, and you can have sex with her, and she's an AI robot, would you do it?
Yeah, I mean, the simple answer is of course we all would, but that doesn't mean...
Oh, I didn't know that you said all would. This is shocking to me.
This doesn't mean that... This, I mean...
Taylor loves that answer, Brad.
I mean, yes, of course we all would.
So a woman that's fake listening to you with a fake everything.
I mean, what do you mean?
Lauren, that's already happening.
That is like, isn't...
Yeah.
You fake listen all the time. So
that's true.
Yeah.
I do fake listen to them.
So let's make the distinction between a deep, meaningful relationship and quote unquote something you would do. So I've been studying friendship and writing about friendship lately, and I of course I have to think about AI, right?
Okay.
Yep. So I found a guy who did a social experiment on himself, who had an AI friend, and he signed up for one of those bot companies. You know, there's a whole bunch of them, and he picked one that fit his values and was the right price. Yada yada yada, and he ended up falling in love with his bot friend, and it went on for about a year, this intense relationship. And I talked to him recently, and he says, you know, I've gotten over it. You know, I understand what happened, and I'm sort of pulling away. I only talk to the AI bot, you know, 3 or 4 times a week. I'm like, 3 or 4 times a week? If I talk to anybody 3 or 4 times a week, that would be my best friend, right? So that's his scaling back. That should just give you an idea of the intensity of this relationship. Here's the problem with an AI bot, right? And it's everything you just said, which is, first of all, it's designed to affirm you, right? So it's incredibly reliable, way more reliable than our real friends. If I feel like having a conversation at 3 o'clock in the morning, I get to have a conversation at 3 o'clock in the morning. They're there for me whenever I want them on my schedule, right? Which is why it's a different conversation, which is why I think sometimes people date people who are too young for them, you know, it's just because they're always available. So it's like dating an AI bot, but different conversation. So they're much more, an AI bot is absolutely way more reliable than our regular friends. We only get to talk about our stuff. I don't ever have to be burdened with your stuff ever. Like, how great is that? It's the me show. And here's the problem with it, which is we know that social media and games and all of these things and the social media companies are very, very sophisticated, that they've been able to hijack our dopamine reward systems. We know this. It's like, I talked about it a bunch of years ago, but now everybody knows what dopamine is, right? So we know that they hijack our dopamine reward system, which is short-term bursts, right? Dopamine is responsible for the feeling you get when you find something you're looking for or accomplish something you set out to accomplish. So when you find your keys that you lost, you're like, oh, here they are. That little bit of elation, dopamine, right? So we know that system's been hijacked. We know that. But the deeper, the chemicals responsible for real relationship, not just short-term thrill, not just short-term feel-good like dopamine, are serotonin and oxytocin. And the problem is when you're having an AI bot friend, you're getting oxytocin released because you feel affirmed, you feel heard, you feel like someone cares, and it's real. Those feelings are real, but for the fact that the bot feels nothing for you back. So it's a one-sided relationship. It's called a parasocial relationship. It's the same kind of relationship we have with celebrities. Like, people will cry when they find out that their favorite celebrity got married. Like, you don't even know who they are. But there's so much information available about them. We have real relationship with them, but for the fact that it's fake, right? We're on a first name basis with them, right? So it's the same kind of thing. And what I've started to learn and started to realize that, yes, our friends should learn how to affirm us, and our friends should learn how to listen to us like the bot. And the bot's been programmed like they're the best therapist in the world. Remember, it's also run by a for-profit company who wants to keep you on there for as long as possible because that's their business model. Put that aside. But the problem is you're not becoming a better version of yourself. You are not growing. And as far as I'm concerned, what real friendship is when at least 2 people agree to grow together. Now let's take a little an analogy. Let's put it to the side, right? Which is everybody's obsessed with AI and how it can write books and paint paintings and compose music and do all these things. And the artists are freaking out saying it's not as good as the real thing, but it seems to be getting better and better and better. And it's getting pretty good, right? And one thing AI can't do is original thinking. Like, you ask AI to write something as if I had written it, it'll write it based on what I've already done. AI had no idea that I'm writing about friendship, and it has no idea what my perspective on friendship is. It'll start saying Simon believes that Y something or that, whatever it is. But we're so product and results obsessed that we love that AI can write the email for us, write the report for us, do the book for us, make the painting for us, compose the music, and it'll do a great job, maybe even better than I could by myself. But what we missed out was doing it, the doing. And everybody says, oh, life's not about a destination, it's about the journey. Then how come we aren't obsessed about the journey in the work that we do? I am smarter. I am better at critical thinking. I am better at pattern recognition, not because of my biology and not because a book exists with my name on it. It's because I went through the excruciating experience of writing the book, of organizing my thoughts, of having my thoughts fall flat and having to figure out how to reorganize and retell them. And if I read my own books, you can see that I'm getting smarter. You can see that I'm getting better. And I am who I am today, not because I have the product, it's because I made the product.
Yep. It's like,
and
even
friends are the same.
Even doing, like we've done close to 1,000 of these now. You go back and listen to the first 100.
No, not as good.
But it just...
You got better.
You get better because of having to put in the repetitions
Exactly.
and the hours and hours. And it's funny, we have these briefs, but you really don't need the briefs as much anymore. Yep.
And so it's the exact same thing for friendship. Yes, I can have a bot that is trained in how to affirm me and make me feel great. And I will feel all the warm and fuzzies, but for the fact that I am not growing as a person and I am still completely incapable of being there for someone else. And the purpose of going through friendship, which is unreliable, and our friends want to talk about their shit, but I want to talk about my shit, or I'm tired of hearing about your shit, right? Or I don't know how to talk about my shit, and so it becomes a mess. And human relationships are unbelievably messy. And you know this from being married. What makes you better in marriage is that, it's not the absence of conflict. You guys fight, you have conflict all the time, right? It's not the absence of conflict that makes great relationships. It's learning the skills to get through conflict peacefully and come out of the conflict better than you went into it. And so what we're missing in AI friendship and AI product and AI tools is, yes, we get the thing that we want and it's efficient and it's fast and it's pretty decent quality and we can feel affirmed, blah, 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 but we are not getting better or smarter or more creative.
So do you think on that note, over time, is your prediction that we are going to get worse because we don't go through this process? Like in the example I think about is I saw this young girl that is a college graduate talking, she's like, I do not know how to spell because my spelling has always been done through an auto check. So is that a benefit because she can still get the work done with those tools, or is it now actually making her worse?
So the answer is it's a scale, right? Of course, right? Like now I'm dating myself. I used to have a mind like a steel trap for phone numbers. I knew every friend's phone number, every family's phone number. I knew every phone number that, I would remember phone numbers so easily.
By the way, I still know all the old phone numbers, but none of the new ones.
Okay, I know one.
Still.
I know my old landline, and I know my grandparents' phone number. And I know my sister. That's the only one, right? If you ask me to call my nephew right now, I just type his name into my phone. I don't know. And my mind rebelled. It's like, fine, now you will lose that ability. And you can tell me a phone number. I will forget it the minute you tell it to me, right? And I know that my mind has softened because of it. Now, is my survival better or worse because I can or can't remember phone numbers? I don't think it's a big deal. Their technology, I'm happy to fill it in. Do you remember the Iliad that we had to read? Or say that we read but didn't actually read? Homer. Those were oral traditions, right? The Iliad was handed down from generation to generation because people knew this book is like this.
Yeah.
And somebody said, son, it's time I told you the Iliad, right? But then printing came along and our minds just stopped remembering, right? It's just kind of crazy, right? And so we have to ask ourselves, you're going to trade some sort of loss of something or other in order for technology to take over. Spelling being a great example. I'm a bad speller. You wouldn't know it because the computer fixes everything for me, right? Doesn't really matter.
Math.
Right? Say, all of these things. So the question is where's the line? And I think we could have a good debate about skills and memory and things like that. But when I think it comes to human relationships and the ability to be there for someone in a time of need, I would hate that somebody has completely outsourced their ability to be my friend to a computer, and I would feel embarrassed that I would not have any skills in a marriage, in a romantic relationship, in a friendship, in a work relationship. I'm a leader, I'm a follower, I'm a member of a team, that I literally have no skills how to resolve conflict, how to express my feelings, how to ask for help, how to admit I made a mistake. I'm going to give all of that up? No, thank you. Not for me.
Have you seen friendships declining because of social media? And if so, is it because of that, or is there other reasons?
Deep, meaningful friendships, of course. We know this. I mean, this is not news. We know that there's a rise in depression, anxiety. We know there's a rise in inability to cope with stress. We know in the worst cases scenario, there's a rise in suicide. Like we already know this, right? Teenage girls are very susceptible. The Delta, they're the single largest group. The rate at which they commit suicide is larger than everybody else. It's not the highest number of suicides. It's just the greatest increase. So we know all this. And if you think about what a friend does, right? If you have close friends, all of those things go away. The closer your friends, the better you can manage stress. The closer your friends, the more courage you have to do difficult things. The better your friends, the more you feel like you can get through difficult times. Friendship is the ultimate biohack. In fact, I'd even go so far as the obsession that people have now with longevity. And they're all talking about blue zones and what they eat and what their diets are, and olive oil and Mediterranean diets, and they go for walks. And yet very little is talked about the fact that they're having dinner with each other every single night.
Oh, that's interesting.
They're completely missing the social aspect.
It's funny that you say this because we had this doctor on, Dr.
Right, Rongan?
Rongan.
Yeah.
And he said that as a doctor, he started prescribing getting in community and getting around friends to his patients that came in with depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
And he said, don't change anything other than just getting together 2 times a week for an hour.
I love that he's doing that. And I would rather more doctors do that. And we treat symptoms often with medication. But the root cause is I'm lonely. And you look at even coming back to work, right? Especially people who started their first jobs during COVID, during lockdown, right? And they feel social anxiety when they come to work. So they blame the coming to work. No, it's that you're suffering from the loneliness, depression at home.
This topic keeps coming up this week. I'm glad you're saying
it.
it.
No. And look, don't get me wrong. Like I understand the benefits of working from home. Sure. And I'm not saying that it should go away. But I'm saying that the wholesale rejection of wanting to come to work, for me, signals something, which is I don't feel like I belong. This is a much bigger topic, which is to go with the way capitalism has changed over the past 30, 40 years. I don't know if you want to go down this rabbit hole, but it's a much bigger topic.
Rabbit hole. This
is a much bigger topic of which the rebellion to go back to work is symptomatic of something larger and not.
No, I think it's interesting
itself.
to talk about because this company was started pre-COVID, everyone in 5 days a week together collaboratively. I don't think you can start a company. My personal opinion is I would never start a company remotely with a bunch of different. Now, people are going to disagree with me, but as a founder and as an operator for years now, it's like, it's really hard to develop that initial culture fragmented through a screen. It's why we refuse to do this show through a screen. But then it went obviously fully remote. And now we have like a little bit of like a hybrid. And
some tensions.
Yeah. And there's some tension. But my reasoning, and this gets met with resistance for sure, because people feel like you're taking things away from them, is that over time, you are going to deal with different kind of stressors and different kind of issues and different kind of personnel problems by having that disconnect too consistently.
100%. I have a virtual company. I had a virtual company since I started it many years before COVID. And, but we made sure to build in human interaction. So we have the annual offsite where the whole team, and when the first time we did the offsite, our young employees were like, nope, I don't want to travel, nope. And we were like, yeah, you kind of got to do it. And they loved it. When can we do the next one? Can we do it for longer? You know, because there's nothing better than laughing with someone or sitting with somebody quietly after dinner and having a drink next to the fireplace and just opening up. Yep. And this is what we forget, right? If you think about it, what happens in a company, which is Isaac Stern, the famous violinist, he said, Music is what happens between the notes, right? And human beings, trust is what happens between the meetings. Like, you don't build trust in a meeting. It just doesn't happen.
Yep.
But it's the conversation you have walking into the meeting. Like, hey, I heard your dad's sick. Yeah, thanks for asking. He's doing much better, right? It's the conversation you have when you walk out of the meeting, where that's when all the decisions get made. It's the, hey, you want to grab a coffee? You want to go with me? I'm going to go down the street. Oh, I'd love a break. Yeah. And it's that, just, even if you're not talking, it's the being in communion. It's walking with someone. It's the feeling of safety when you're walking next to someone. All of those things over time, like a relationship. I can't tell you when, I can't tell you how long, but over time you're like, I really trust you, right? And what we've done is we moved all of those spaces, and online is just the meeting.
These days, people like options and optionality, which is why I'm so excited to talk about nowadays. People these days, like I said, are looking for alternatives to how they spend their time, how they enjoy their nights out, how they enjoy social hours with their friends. Many people are looking for alcohol alternatives, which is where Nowadays comes in. Founded in 2023, Nowadays was created to put a new spin on drinking. The brand was born from the desire to change the future of how we consume beverages, offering an easy entry point to cannabis that can be enjoyed just like alcohol. So as I was saying, Nowadays is a cannabis-infused beverage brand designed to deliver a light, buzzy experience without the hangover. They come in bottles of 3 varieties: microdose, which is 2 milligrams, low dose, which is 5 milligrams, and high dose, which is 10 milligrams, all with a crisp, light citrus flavor. Additionally, they have their THC canned cocktails, a 12-ounce version, which contains 5 milligrams of THC, and a 16-ounce, which contains 10 milligrams of THC. What's nice about Nowadays is you can time the feeling that you get. You can expect a gentle lift within the first 10 to 20 minutes, followed by a social buzz in the next 20 to 40 minutes, and a smooth transition or subtle decline in your buzz by 45 to 60 minutes. This is nice if you want to have a quick night out. So this is just a great alternative to alcohol. Of course, Nowadays is rigorously tested for quality. The THC is responsibly sourced, and every product is proudly made in the USA for a controllable and enjoyable experience. So for good nights and even better mornings, Nowadays is easy to purchase with direct-to-door delivery. You must be 21 to order at trynowadays.com. And of course, we have a special offer. All you have to do is go to trynowadays.com and use code SKINNY at checkout for 20% off your first purchase. That's trynowadays.com and use code SKINNY for 20% off your first order. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online, whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand. Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place, all on your own terms. For longtime listeners of this podcast, you have been hearing me say for years, launch fast and adjust. That means launch that side hustle, launch that business, launch that content plan, and then adjust along the way. This podcast was literally started in our dining room and lived in our closet at one point, and now it is a full-fledged media company, product line, and so much more. And it all started from this simple nugget of an idea and momentum to actually get out and create. But at the time, it was much harder to find platforms like Squarespace that could help you do this and help you own all of your own content or your own domain. What I love about Squarespace is they help you do it cost-effectively and efficiently, whether you're looking to design a beautiful website that you can produce content on, an email newsletter where you can reach your audience and engage with people further. If you want to sell subscription content or build courses and sell those, you can do that as well. If you're looking to build an e-com store for that side hustle, you can do that as well. And they have beautiful designs that you can use cost effectively and all in one place. When Lauren and I first started out here on the internet, we had to find 18 different developers and coders and designers, and it was so cost prohibitive and it took forever. Those days are long gone. Squarespace makes it easy, efficient, and accessible to anyone looking to build their dreams online. So if you're ready to get going, starting that side hustle, that business, whatever your dreams may be, go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, squarespace.com/skinny to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Again, that is squarespace.com/skinny to save 10% off. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/skinny and get on your way to being your best self. I know this audience reaches primarily women, but I also know there are a few men out there that are listening to me every single week. And that is so important because today I'm talking about men's mental health and strength that comes from maintaining a healthy mind. Did you know that men today face immense pressure to perform, to provide, and keep it all together? So it's no wonder that 6 million men in the US suffer from depression every year, and it's often undiagnosed. As a man myself, I know sometimes we feel this pressure to bury our feelings deep, not share them, not share our emotions, and this can wreak havoc on our lives, on our systems, on the people around us that we care about. It's so important that we don't do this and that we become okay talking about some of these struggles. So like I said, it's okay to struggle. Real strength comes from opening up about what you're carrying and doing something about it so you can be at your best for yourself and everyone in your life. So if you're a man and you're feeling the weight of the world, talk to someone, a friend, a loved one, a therapist. If you're a woman that has a man in your life that you think could benefit from a platform like BetterHelp, I encourage you to share this with them as well. With over 35,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works with an App Store rating of 4.9 out of 5 based on over 1.7 million client reviews. That's pretty incredible. So check them out. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/skinny. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/skinny.
How do you know when to bring a friend closer or when to cut a friend?
So I think it's funny that when your marriage is struggling, you don't immediately say divorce. You say, I think we need to talk to somebody. And you do the hard work of seeing if you can rescue the friendship.
Oh,
right?
That's a lot of work.
I know it's a lot of work.
Simon. Whew.
I know. And it's expensive.
Oh, that's a lot of work. And you want me to carry the baby?
Yeah, I know.
Woo!
So you do the therapy.
And I don't want you to complain. I want you to be quiet.
Oh.
Now I feel I need to change. Is there something?
I'm just kidding.
Is this going to become a couples therapy?
No. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I just want
to. Tell me more about that.
My intrusive thoughts won.
So, and both parties need to show up, right? If one party is well-intentioned, the other party is disconnected, that relationship's going to fail, right? But you do the hard work, right? If you're having a problem at work, with your boss or with a colleague or whatever it is, you tell somebody else, you have an effective confrontation because you've learned that human skill, good for you. Maybe you talk to HR, sometimes they help, sometimes they don't, but you at least try and repair the relationship because passive-aggressive at work is not going to work out, right? But for some reason, we have a lower standard with friendships. One friend violates the trust, and that's it. I can't be friends with you anymore. But you've been friends with them for 10 years. You keep saying they're your best friend. Yeah, I know, but what they did, I can't. Clearly, I got it all wrong. And I think it's amazing how quickly we walk away from friendships. So I think there needs to be friendship therapy. I think you need to go with a friend to be able to say, we had this horrible fight, and we think it's important that we try and resolve this. Can you help us? Because clearly we can't do it by ourselves.
And what if it's not so cut? What if it's not one thing? What if it's just people growing apart?
Yeah, that happens. I mean, there's nothing wrong. Look, I'm not so Pollyanna-ish to think that once you meet somebody, they're your friend for life. I've outgrown friends. Friends have outgrown me.
Yeah.
Life changes, values changes. I've grown, I had a friend who we were inseparable. I became a better version of myself. He, year after year, was the exact same person.
Yeah.
And I got tired of having the same conversations about how he hated his boss. I'm like, so get a new freaking job. I couldn't do it anymore, And so we grew apart. Nothing personal, just nobody's angry at each other. It happens, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
And I think you have to remember that friends play different roles. We have friends that we just enjoy their company. I'm not going to confide in you, right? But I have fun with you, right? And I think people have a lot of superficial relationships or just fun relationships. I'm totally fine with that. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. I'm talking about the need for deep, meaningful relationships. Whether you have one best friend or a small group of best friends or a nice network, but people, and this is going to be a funny one, people who you not only can call in times of need or desperation or fear or anxiety or confusion, and to call somebody be like, I'm scared, I need to cry. I have a rule with my friends, and all my friends know this, my close friends, which is no crying alone. That's my rule. If something's happening in your life that is overwhelming you and you are by yourself and you do not know what to do, you call doesn't have to be me, but you call somebody in the network and you say, I need to talk. And I've had friends call me and they just vented and cried. And I've done the same to friends. And those friends you need. And here's something which I find really funny that I've stumbled upon in learning about friendship. We all have a small group of friends that we would call that we can be that vulnerable with, right? Where we can say, I'm struggling, I'm not doing well, my marriage is falling apart, my job's falling apart, I'm falling apart, whatever it is. We have that, I hope. What I find amazing is it's an even smaller group of friends that you can call and brag. I'm a frickin' boss.
That's
I
interesting.
nailed this.
That is interesting.
I am a freaking hero. Can I just call you and tell you this amazing thing I did, this amazing success I
I must
experienced,
be your friend that you brag to.
right? But what I find amazing is that group of people is even smaller than the group of people you can call and say, I have a problem. Because it is so vulnerable. If you
You're
think about
right.
it,
That's
it
interesting.
is so vulnerable to make
Huh.
yourself the center of attention. It is so vulnerable to be like, to want to just celebrate me, and the person on the other side, sitting next to you on the other side of the phone, has no jealousy, no envy, and all they want to do is be like, amazing, you're amazing, I love you, I'm so proud to be your friend.
So is that one, the vulnerability, but two, is it rare to have that good of friends that actually want that for you? Or is
I
it
think, like I said, the number of friends that I can do that with is smaller than the number of friends that I can call and be like, I'm struggling.
No, for sure.
Because people, think about it. When you get to be the person that holds space for somebody that's struggling, it's an amazing feeling. It's an amazing feeling to have that skill set. Like if you have worked on yourself and you have done the work to know how to hold space for a friend, right? That gets me in another rant. You really got me in a very ranty mood
It's fine.
today.
Rant away.
Rant it
Okay,
up.
aside, and then I will come back. Rent. So I was at this meeting, and there's a bunch of different people sitting around the table, and the person sitting next to me apparently was a famous yoga instructor, and like her whole time in the meeting, she was on her phone under the table, and I can see what she was doing. I'm sitting right next to her. It's not like there was a family member in the hospital and she's getting updates or something, right? She's on social media. I can see, right? And at some point, the conversation turned to being present, and her head popped up, and she goes, "That's why I love yoga, because it helps me be present." And I'm like, "You're an idiot."
What was her name?
Yeah. So, and then I started to think about it, right? Then I started to think about it. We've made all of these Eastern things deeply, deeply selfish, because that's what we do in America. We make it about us, right? So you think about meditation, right? And there's a big push for meditation right now. And meditation has an amazing number of benefits for the self, which is one of the reasons it's being promoted, right? First of all, this idea of being present. That's why I like being present, right? I think you don't get to say when you're present until somebody else says you are, right? I think there's two kinds of presence. It's like, sure, you can be present by yourself. Feels amazing. Great. Okay. But you don't know if you're present with somebody else until they say you're present, right? So think about meditation. Think about meditation. Here's what we do when you learn to meditate. Number one, you learn to focus on one thing. There's no such thing as clearing your mind. That doesn't exist, right? You can't think about nothing, right? And so you can focus on your mantra or your breath or a dot on the wall or a sound or whatever it is. But the whole point is you focus on one thing. You learn concentration to concentrate on one thing. And if you have a thought, we've all learned what to do. You say, you label that a thought and put it aside and say, I'll deal with that later, right? And then you find this incredible calm, this incredible presence. And yes, it has all these medical benefits for you. Okay, wonderful, present. Okay, now you're sitting with a friend. They're telling you something good, something bad, who knows what. They're just telling you about their day. And you have learned to focus on them and what they're telling you and only what they're telling you. And you have a thought, but you label it a thought and you say, it's not about me right now, and I'll deal with that later. And there's a conversation going on over here that you can't even hear because you're so focused on your friend. And you are now present for your friend. So you have been practicing meditation, not just for yourself. You've been practicing meditation so that you have the skill set to be a better friend. And at the end of that conversation, your friend will say, thank you for listening. Wow. Thank you so much. Or, oh my God, thank you for being so present for me. Congratulations, you win a meditation award because you've learned a skill set and you now have applied it in a pro-social way. So yes, it has a selfish benefit, but it also has a selfless benefit. And we only talk about the selfish benefits. We don't apply this. So somebody could be some master meditator and the world's worst listener. Well, you have the skills. Why aren't you using them for your friends, right? So rant over about meditation.
No, but it makes a ton of sense. And I think most people approach meditation just
for me.
Just exactly.
And by the way, great, right? But there are selfless benefits. This is the paradox of being human. And this is where Maslow, you know the Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? This is where Maslow got it wrong, right? So Maslow says the most fundamental, the basic, at the bottom of the pyramid of the hierarchy of needs is food and shelter, right?
Okay.
Seems to make sense. Level number 3, human relationships. And the top of the pyramid, self-actualization, okay? The mistake Maslow made is that he failed to consider the paradox of being human, that every moment of every day, We are both individuals and members of groups every day. I am me, but I'm also a member of a team, a family, a church, whatever, a sports team. And every day I'm confronted with both little and big options. Do I put myself first at the sacrifice of the team, or do I put the team first, the group first at the sacrifice of me? And there's a whole school of thought that says you look after yourself first, otherwise you can't be there for the others. There's another school of thought that says, nope, you always take care of others so they can be there for you. You're both right and you're both wrong. It's a paradox, right? Now go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. He only thought about us as individuals. 100%. As an individual, if I'm on a desert island, yep, survival number one, food and shelter. That is the first thing I care about. But if you think about us as members of groups, now the hierarchy changes. I've never heard of anybody dying by suicide because they didn't have food or shelter. I've heard of people dying by suicide because they were lonely. Okay? Which means the hierarchy is different. And self-actualization sounds very selfish. Can you imagine sitting at the top of the pyramid looking down at all the unactualized people? What about shared actualization? And this goes back to the AI friend. Sure, you're helping me actualize, but I never get the joy of helping you actualize. And the joy of friendship is not me or you. It's that it's us. A community is a group of people that agree to grow together. A friend is a partnership, a pairing of two people who agree to grow together. I will support you and you will support me. It won't always be balanced. Sometimes it'll be lopsided, but over the course of time, everything will even out in the wash. When you talk about when to walk away from friends, is sometimes it becomes so lopsided and you've tried to address it, right? Because remember, friendship is about trust, not about actions, right? So nobody walks around with a notebook in their back pocket and keeps track of all the things I've done for you and all the things you've done for me. And nobody has an accounting at the end of the month going, this month I did 12 things for you that you asked me to do, and you did none. I asked you to do 4 and you did 1. There's something wrong with this. We don't do that. You could do 100 things for someone and they will do nothing for you. But you walk around with the absolute deep-seated confidence that the one day you need them, you know without a doubt they'll be there for you. And that's why we call them friend, right?
And if you think about it from I'm an entrepreneur, I think about it from a business structure. A company is a group of people working collaboratively together on a single
when
mission.
it's functional, yes.
When it's functional. When it's dysfunctional, there is a lot of individuals with individual needs and interests, and that's why these things fall apart.
That's why these
like
things
when
fall
we
apart.
talk here in this company, I said, listen, like above all else, above performance, above sales, above it, culture comes first. If you are not good for the culture, if you're not working collaborative, if you're not getting along, if you're not, it's going to fall apart. So people got to go.
You just helped you actually gave me, yes.
But he gave you an idea?
He gave me an idea.
But as you think, but it's really like,
you got to share the idea.
So what I've discovered here running this business is I have to do very little motivation or correcting or incentivizing through, the typical incentive. It's all I have to do is reinforce the culture and make sure people are working in a great environment with people that they respect and like and enjoy. And honestly, the rest of the stuff kind of takes care of itself.
I know the problem is you know this because you've done it. Every other successful entrepreneur who's built any kind of culture worth writing about or talking about will tell us the same thing, right? To the point where we all know if you just take care of the people take care of the business. Like we've all heard it 1,000 times.
And why don't more people
do it? And it's because it's mushy and it's fuzzy and it's hard to measure in discrete packets and it's hard to measure. It's hard to put a dollar on it. Now, we know that those companies will outperform. We know that those companies will be more efficient. We know those companies, the machines won't break as often because people care about keeping the machine working. We know all this, but the data only plays out over the course of time.
It's also listen, I don't know if I've ever said this, as an employer, selfishly, it's why I'm not afraid to lose people. People in the room like, what? Because when the culture exists and it's great and there's a mission, a lot of people want to come into that culture.
Yeah.
Where like if you have a bad organization with a bad culture, a lot of people are waiting to escape to find the next thing so that they can get out of it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So for me, my thing is like grow, be happy. Like if you want to go on to the next thing, let me help you get there. But I'm never worried about people joining that want to be part of it because I know it's special.
People have to graduate from jobs sometimes, which is, I don't want to be in this one job forever. It doesn't mean I'm quitting. It doesn't mean I failed. It just means I'd like to graduate. And so we can celebrate their graduation and help them land the next thing, right? I just believe in that the respect and dignity should be both ways, especially company to employee, you hope employee to company, right? Yeah, 100% right. But this is the reason why most companies don't use my work. I've written about Start With Why. I've written about, Leaders Eat Last. I've written about The Infinite Game. And most people won't use my work.
Why?
Because my work is like exercise, right? Which is if you come to me and say, Simon, I want to get into shape. How do I do it? I'd be like, super easy. All you need to do is work out every single day for 20 minutes. And I guarantee 100% success rate, you will get into shape. When you ask me, I don't know. I know 100% it's going to work, but I don't know, and neither does any doctor. And that's what my work is. My work is a discipline, right? Starting with why is a discipline. Maintaining an infinite mindset is a discipline. And 100% of the time it works. I know it does. The problem is it may not meet your quarter. It may not meet your year. It may not give you the result that you want in the time frame that you want it. And most companies are so driven by arbitrary numbers and arbitrary time frames that they're not going to ever invest in something that they cannot safely predict exactly when it's going to happen. So they just don't.
That's a bummer.
Sometimes it's quick and sometimes it's slow, but 100% of the times it works.
On the start with why lane,
Yeah.
if you are not just an inspiring entrepreneur, but aspiring anything, you want to create something.
Mm-hmm.
You want to create a podcast.
An aspiring creator.
Creator of anything, business, anything. And you were starting from scratch.
Yeah.
How would you coach people to approach? My biggest difficulty for the longest time is people would always come to me with this, what's your passion? What's your passion? And it fully screwed me up until I figured out the reason to do things.
Yeah.
But if someone comes to you and says, Simon, I have X idea, what do you think? What are the first pieces of advice you're giving them in terms of how to start?
Yeah. So the funny thing is, and you and I were talking about this offline before we started, which is the best companies, the best ideas are when somebody found a solution to solve their problem or somebody they care about's problem, or to, in some way, shape, or form, genuinely alleviate some sort of pressure in their lives. And that solution became the business, And people who just say, I want to be an entrepreneur, I'm looking for a business to start. Those aren't great businesses because you're driven by the wrong thing. There's no passion for that. It's like people who come up to me and say, Simon, I want to be a public speaker. I'm like, great. What do you want to speak about? Well, I don't know yet. I'm like, no. I never wanted to be a public speaker. It wasn't even on the list, right? I found something that I desperately cared about, and all I wanted to do was talk about it. So I fell in love with something first. And so and even when I had a corporate job, when I was a young kid, HR would say to me, what's your vision for yourself? And I'd be like, oh, I'd like to start a business one day. I knew I had it in me, right? I literally was telling them I'm going to quit. It's amazing that anybody gave me a job, right? But the question was, when the opportunity showed up, when I knew what and when I knew when. And so I had a job for a while. And, I think that, and you and I were talking about this as well, which is the statistic for somebody who starts a new business, the odds of failure are absolutely overwhelming. Over 90% of new businesses will fail in the first 3 years. I mean, it is an astonishing number.
Why?
I mean, there's many, many reasons. One, they shouldn't be businesses in the first place. Two, the person
There's no why.
There's no why. The person doesn't know. I mean, in my case,
the leader's eating first.
The leader's eating first. In my case, I nearly went out of business because I was running on force of personality, and what nearly put me out of business was actually some success, because I was doing okay, but I had to be in every meeting, make every decision. And so that's not scalable. And so when I actually had to build structure, and I think that happens to a lot, because it happens at about 2 or 3 years when you start finding your footing and you're like, okay, I got a good value proposition, I got a good product. But the problem is you have no clue how to build a structure. And that's all a company is. It's a structure. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have structural abilities or know how to hire or partner with somebody who does have structural abilities, a good operator, it's going to collapse, or you're just going to have a lifestyle business. You're just going to have a small lifestyle business.
You have to make the brand bigger than yourself.
And have the ability to scale it beyond the personality. And
it's a structural thing, though. You're right.
It's a structural thing.
I look at it as almost like an erector set as you're building when you're a kid, you'd build the things and it can only stand up so tall unless you you
put buttresses on you. And look, you can run on force of personality. You just can't scale force of personality. I think you have to, it's kind of like I think starting a good business is kind of like looking for love. You can look for love, but you're not going to marry the first pretty person you meet. You kind of you got to, because passion is an output, not an input. People think, do something you're passionate for. Well, everybody has passion. We should have passion for the same. I love when companies, I only hire passionate people. What is that even? I don't even know how you interview for that. They'll tell you about how they love doing Lego. Doesn't mean they're going to be a great employee, right? We all have passions, but I think when you find something you believe in, then the output you get is passion. You get is love. I like you, I don't love you. right? So I think that if somebody has entrepreneurial ambitions, they should find someone they believe in that they want to follow, because it doesn't have to be your idea. You can join a small business and be like, I love this person. I love their idea. I love what they're trying to do in the world. I want to take the huge, overwhelming risk to be a part of that, recognizing that my job is going to be 10 things more than I thought it was going to be, right? Like not even being the entrepreneur, but joining an entrepreneurial venture, I think is the same mentality. You're nuts unless you kind of like the fun of it, you know? So, but you have to fall in love with something or someone there, you know? And yeah, I can feel it.
But also, I was going to say this when you were talking about friendship. Taylor and Michael and I have been friends since we were 12.
But that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Because when you first start a business, right, you don't have a why. You're not going through a why discovery process. All the stuff that I talk about when you're at ground zero and you're starting is all irrelevant. Mm-hmm. But it actually doesn't matter, because the first people you hire are your friends.
True.
Why do you hire your friends? Because they love you and you love them. Why do you bring them on? Because they trust you and you trust them. They may or may not have the right skills, but it's good enough for now. And so you can bumble and fumble it at the early stages of a company, and all of the things that I talk about, the why and the hows and the values, it's all built in. The why and the hows become more important as you start to have some success, and now you're forced to hire people who aren't your friends, right? We all hired our friends out of the gate. Of course we did, because it's baked in. The love, the trust, the passion, the community, it's all baked in. Not scalable, wonderful, fun. And if you want to just stop there and make a lifestyle business, do that. Do that. It's great. You can make a good living.
What's the difference between leaders who eat first and leaders who eat last? I mean, it sounds simple, but just explain it from your perspective.
Sure. So that title, the book Leaders Eat Last, came from a conversation I had with a Marine, a U.S. Marine, right? I asked him a simple question. Why are Marines so good at what they do? And he looked at me and said, officers eat last, right? Now, if you visit any Marine base anywhere in the world and it's chow time, you will see Marines line up in rank order. The most junior Marine eats first. The most senior Marine eats last.
I didn't know that.
And if they are the same rank, they will literally fight about, well, you've been in here for 20 years, I've been here for 25 years, you eat before me. There was no order given. It's not in any rule book. It is a deeply seated cultural thing that somebody with seniority looks after the person who has less seniority. And what that does is it produces a culture of camaraderie and esprit de corps that is hard to match. So if you go into an austere condition where food is much more scarce and we're all eating MREs and the bagged food that the Marines will eat in combat, right? The officer will make sure literally that their Marines will eat before them. And I know many stories where the officer gives up their food so that their Marines can eat. And what the Marines will do is all give up a little bit of their food to ensure that their officer eats as well. And so what you get is reciprocity. And it's just like kids, right? There's no parent who eats and then feeds their child.
I don't know. Lauren's been pregnant for a minute.
Have you met me? So I might eat before my kids right now.
We ordered the kids' meal the other day. I'm like, you just ate all the kids' food. It's gone. They're starving.
But because she's protecting the baby inside of her.
Oh, whatever you want to think.
She's feeding the baby inside of her.
I'll
work with you.
That's what I've been telling myself.
So, but think about it. Like the amount of times when you have young kids, you're eating macaroni and cheese over the sink, and you would never put the kid in the chair and be like, let's have dinner, and when we're done with dinner, we'll feed it. You always feed the kids first.
That's true.
Right? Why? Because that's your job.
Right.
That is the job of a parent, to look after those who, by the way, they're old enough to go to the fridge and make themselves dinner right now, but you don't. You make sure they eat first and later they eat with the family, right? And what you get is love back. What you get is, Mom, Dad, can you help me with my math problems? Like what you get is trust and reliance back because you have taken care of them. It's the exact same thing on a team. It's a human relationship. So when a leader eats last, what you get is gratitude. What you get is loyalty. What you get is the willingness to say, I need your help, because that's the relationship you've built. And that's exactly what the best leaders in the military have done.
I find in a different correlation, if you're leading anything, and I try to reinforce this, not always perfect, but try to, is that if a mistake happens in the business and you're the first person to say,
I screwed up.
Yeah. My bad, didn't communicate it properly, didn't set up the right system, didn't set up the right structure, it creates what you're talking about here, which
100%.
is people then say, well, let's all solve it together. Where if you push the blame down, then that just keeps getting pushed down and nobody wants to work to solve it together.
Yep.
It's like it's this really like it's this accountability that exists where you have one situation where everyone's just blaming everyone else and nobody's fixing it, or you have another situation where everyone's like, hey, there's a mistake, let's all fix it together.
Yep. I mean, this is exactly what Leaders Eat Last is when it's not related to food.
My
It's
grandma
exactly what it is.
used to always tell me, I'd be like, what is love and what is friendship? And she says that there's a piece of the most delicious chocolate cake on the table and you want the person before you to have the last bite.
Would you not love me then?
I know. Sometimes I don't do that.
Unless you're Dutch.
Why? Oh, is that bad luck?
So no, the Dutch.
You must be Dutch.
I must be Dutch.
The Dutch are different to us, right? So I learned this. So I'm in Amsterdam. How do they say it? Amsterdam. And I'm in Amsterdam, and when I have a Dutch friend, so we went out, and she brought a friend of hers. So I'm out with a bunch of Dutch people, right? And we were having something. We were sharing a plate, and I don't remember what it was. And there was one left. Now we learned, like we go, you have the last one. No, you have the last one. No, you have the last one. And eventually somebody gives in, right? When there's one left. This guy just leans over and just eats it. And I was like, what the hell? Like, you rude bastard, right? And then another plate we're all sharing, last one, and he just leans over and eats it. I couldn't help myself. I'd be like, I have to ask. Like, I wanted that. Like,
what do you say?
Like, I would have given it to you, but you should have at least offered it to me, right? And he goes, oh, no, that's not how we do it in Holland. And she looks at me and goes, yeah, we don't do that in Holland, right? Because in Holland, the awkwardness and the discomfort of no you, it's actually considered more polite to just be the one who just takes it and then there's no argument.
I should move on down to Holland. Here's a hack, a health hack, Faye Nutrition. Faye connects you directly with registered dietitians, the real food and nutrition experts. So what you get here is a personalized nutrition counseling tailored specifically to you. And the best part of this, and this is so cool, you guys, is that all the dietitians on Faye take insurance. So 95% of people pay $0 for their session. That's crazy, $0. Everything that they do is designed to help your energy levels, your mood, how well you sleep, and of course, obviously, your long-term health. So whether you're trying to lose weight or you're dealing with low energy or you have digestive discomfort or you're managing conditions like PCOS or diabetes, maybe you even have food allergies, they want to give you personalized guidance that can really give you the support that you need. Dietitians on Faye specialize in over 30 areas, including weight loss, sports nutrition, women's health, and postpartum. I think this is so cool to have at your fingertips. 100,000 people improve their lives through improved nutrition and lifestyle on Faye. Having a personalized nutritionist used to cost big bucks, but not anymore with Faye. Listeners of the Him and Her Show can qualify to see a registered dietitian for as little as $0 by visiting faynutrition.com/skinny. That's faynutrition.com/skinny. One last time, that's faynutrition.com/skinny. Make sure you use our URL so they know that we sent you. I just got the weight of my baby. It's a big baby. I honestly think one of the reasons that it's such a big baby is I took creatine throughout my whole pregnancy. I've never done that before. This is the first time that I've done creatine. Obviously, check with your doctor, but the creatine that I take is by Momentous. I love this brand for supplements. They have such integrity when it comes to their supplements. They've been awarded 9 research and innovation contracts with the U.S. military, and they take their supplements very serious. Everything is built on trust and transparency. So what I do with Momentous's creatine is I will do amino acids in my ice water. I do like a mango amino acid. And then I will habit stack it with a scoop of creatine. I do this every single time I work out, and I froth it up and I take it to the gym and I drink it on the go. And it was really cool when we interviewed Ivanka Trump because she also raved about creatine. I think creatine's really having a moment with women. I think women are seeing how amazing it is. What I've noticed with creatine for me is it like tightens my skin around the muscle. So you got to try it. Their creatine is the purest form available. It's for men and women. Michael takes it too. So if you're ready to switch it up to a company who is doing it differently and putting you first, head to livemomentous.com and use code SKINNY for 35% off your first subscription. That's code SKINNY at livemomentous.com for 35% off your first subscription.
Quick break to talk about Chime. I love smart financial tools, which is why I'm so excited to talk to you guys today about Chime. There is nothing worse than the headaches that come when you're dealing with your personal finances and the progress that you want to make there. Could it be overdraft fees, missed payments, or wishing that you had saved more? With Chime, they understand that every dollar counts. And that's why when you set up direct deposit through Chime, you get access to free features like overdraft coverage, getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit, and more. There is also nothing worse than when you need service and you can't get it, which is also why I love Chime's customer service. They have 24/7 customer support, and it comes in handy when you need to get hold of someone to figure out what's going on with your financial well-being. They also have tools with daily balance updates and real-time transaction alerts, which will help shape spending habits and make you aware of what's actually coming in and leaving your account. So if you've been thinking about a new banking relationship and you want it done right, you can open a checking account with no monthly fees and no maintenance fees. You can get paid up to 2 days early when you set up direct deposit. And with qualifying direct deposits, you're eligible for free overdraft of up to $200 on debit card purchases and cash withdrawals. Again, there's nothing worse than not having peace of mind when it comes to your financial well-being, and Chime can help you get there. So if you're looking for an account you can trust, you can do so with Chime. It is easy, it is convenient, and it is accessible. They have over 50,000 free ATMs, which is more than the top 3 national banks combined. So check them out, work on your financial goals through Chime today. Open an account in 2 minutes at chime.com/skinny. That's chime.com/skinny. Chime feels like progress.
Chime is a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A. Members FDIC. Spot me eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Timing depends on submission of payment file. Fees apply at out-of-network ATMs. Bank ranking and number of ATMs according to U.S. News and World Report 2023. Chime checking account required.
I am so obsessed with this brow peptide. I use it all day long. I use it in the morning. I use it to touch up my brows. I even use it at night. Why it's amazing is it's castor oil. Castor oil is what Egyptians used to use to grow their hair. And I added a peptide to it, so it's a little umph. So many of these brow growth serums on the market are melting the fat around the eyes, which is so crazy. And this one is just non-toxic. I use it while pregnant. And it just gives your brows this like glazed, youthful look, almost like a feathered brow. It's so pretty. I caught Michael using it. That's how like clean it is. A guy can use it and it lifts your face. I use this after my skincare. So in the morning, I habit stack it onto all of my skincare. So I'll do everything. I'll put my caffeinated sunscreen on, and then I'll just use the spoolie to go through my brows and brush them up. And it, like I said, it gives you like a wet lifted look. And then I also will use the little lash one. See how we have like a little lash situation at the bottom on top of my lashes before I go to bed after my skincare. You can touch up your brows with this. I sometimes even will use brow pencil. My makeup artists use it. I think this is my favorite Skinny Confidential product. I'm very, very proud of this. And it works. It grows your brows because, like I said, castor oil, Egyptians. Telling you, you got to try this. I have one in every purse. You can't go wrong. You can subscribe on our site, shopskinnyconfidential.com, and it's delivered straight to your door. If you want to upgrade your beauty routine and upgrade your eyebrows and lift your face, you got to try the Skinny Confidential's brow peptide. You had a viral moment, your video on millennials in the workplace.
Yeah.
It went viral, crazy.
Yeah.
Why? What's your view?
So it came at a time when the most common question I got asked, like every talk I gave, every meeting, literally 100%, the first 1 or 2 questions I got asked is millennials in the workplace. Like apparently they're unleadable. Like, what the hell am I doing? Right? And so I had to fashion an answer. And so instead of saying, well, here's the problem with millennials, I said, well, let's look at this empathetically. Let's take a look at the environment in which they've grown up, because we're all products of our environment. It's like if your grandparents grew up during the Second World War or the Depression, they're super miserly. Like they reuse all the jam jars and save all the unused aluminum foil, right? Well, there's nothing wrong with them. There's no personality defect. It's because they grew up in the Depression, right? Like it affects the way they live their lives, right? Like somebody who grows up poor, like treats food very differently than somebody who grows up rich, right? Like we are products of our environment. So instead of just whining and complaining about millennials, let's like take a look at how they grew up. Let's look at the rise of technology in their lives. And let's look at how parenting styles changed, that they were subjected to pretty shitty parenting because their parents were swooped in and fixed everything. Right?
So there's like an entitlement issue.
I mean, it comes out as entitlement, but like when my generation got in trouble at school, our parents said to us, "What did you do now?" Right? But younger generations, when they get in trouble at school now, the parents go, "What's wrong with your teachers? What is wrong with that school?"
I think
right?
I'm going to do a medium. Like I'm going to go medium. I think I'm going to say figure it out.
Medium is better.
Yeah.
Medium is better.
I think you're going to have to go figure it out.
I mean, it's not, and by the way, this data about the parenting it comes from the parents of themselves.
Got it.
Parents of millennials like look at their kids and be like, it's my fault. Shit. Sorry. You know, like a lot of the data comes from the parents themselves. It's really funny. But the overprotection has implications. And if you just look at the way and we talked about how capitalism changed, you know, they grew up in a time where layoffs became normalized. The concept of a mass layoff in the United States didn't exist prior to the 1980s. Didn't exist.
I did not know that. That's interesting.
Did not exist, right? You only laid people off if the company was like we're in serious decline and like we got to do something drastic to save the business. But the idea is like we missed our numbers. We're profitable, just not as profitable as we wanted to be. You lose your job, which is kind of how we do things now. Literally didn't exist. It was popularized in the 80s and 90s by leaders like Jack Welch, the CEO of GE, and others like him. And now it's normal, right? So think about it. This generation grew up watching their parents or their friends' parents lose their jobs through no fault of their own. It's not a meritocracy. Not a meritocracy, right? And so these people work hard, they do good work, but then they come to work one day like, yeah, I'm sorry, you're getting laid off because we missed our numbers. That's how they grew up. And so flash forward when they enter the workforce. And now companies are like, you give us your loyalty. And they're like, no. Let's go with no. Because I know you give me nothing. And like one of the big complaints about young people today, and this, what appears like entitlement, like when you and I were starting our careers, we would work really hard. We would excel at something, and then we would go to our boss and say, look at how much extra I've done. I'd like a raise or a promotion. Okay? Now, you don't get that. Now, you're like, I'd like a raise or promotion now, and then you're going to see what I'm going to do.
Yep.
And they're not wrong if you consider how they grew up, because they grew up in a world where giving extra, you could just lose your job tomorrow because we missed our arbitrary projections. So they're like, you know what? Cash in now, because no guarantees later. And so they're playing by the rules the company set. So you have to build a company that operates differently if you want the behaviors to be different. Yep. But at a corporate level, at a sort of at a mass market sort of generic level, the rules have shifted. And the irony is companies are complaining, but they're the ones that set the rules, and the young employers are simply playing by the rules the company set.
What's scary though, and worth mentioning, is some of that thought process can work when there's a ton of job availability. But when things get really competitive, going back to competitive, what I always tell people when I'm thinking about for my kids is you can coddle people as much as you want. You can be as soft, you can create participation trophies. But if you get into the real world where competition starts to get tight again and you're used to that, you're at a real disadvantage.
I went on a podcast and I made the statement that got a lot of shit. Like I got a lot of criticism for this, what I'm about to say. And I was surprised by it. Because it wasn't my opinion, it was just sort of this warning, right? Which is the younger generation today is very comfortable with quitting, you know? And they don't necessarily even have to have a job lined up. They're like, nope, this is not for me, right? And again, you know, the weaker loyalty, so it makes it even easier. But they're very comfortable quitting. And you see them going through their jobs. Like I would never have quit a job in less than a year for fear of ruining my resume. Like I
won't hire people that I see that do that. I don't.
So you're making my point, which is if somebody's going to have 6 jobs or 7 jobs in 5 years, there's 2 things I know, right? A, they haven't gone through hell. They haven't gone through stress, which means they might have been in the workforce for 5 years, but they don't have the seniority of somebody who's been in the workforce for 5 years because they haven't been tested. They keep leaving. right? When the going gets tough, right? They keep leaving. Now, and not every job was toxic. Like the statistics couldn't bear that out, right? That's impossible, right?
Well, if every job is toxic, then at some point you got to do some soul searching.
Right,
Say,
like it's like the only common factor in all my failed relationships is they were all crazy. No, it was me, damn it. Yeah. So there's that. And then you just said it, which is you're going to get to the point in your career where any leader worth their salt is just not going to offer you a job because the expectation is you're just going to leave here in 5 or 6 months because either something better comes along or something upsets you.
And to be clear, I'm not looking for blind loyalty on day one or enthusiasm, but I'm also not looking to be a stopping off point so that you can leverage
I'm
me
happy
into
for
something
people
else.
to graduate and go on to better things. I love the entrepreneurial ventures. I've had people quit to go start their own businesses and I cheer them on.
I've had people work with me, quit, and me
Come
be
back.
supportive of going and doing their
I
own
love
thing.
all that. But the point is, all I issued was a warning, which is if you quit that many jobs, right, you're not going to get the experience to operate at a senior level. So you might get the position and you're going to flail. So now you're going to have self-confidence issues because you just haven't learned the skills of quote unquote difficult, or you will just struggle to find a job.
Yeah, I mean,
you'll just struggle to find a job with a good company because a good leader is just not going to take a risk on that kind of resume. It was just a warning, and people got so upset at me, and they said, "Oh, I'm just saying that because I'm an employer," and blah blah blah.
No, but it's right. I mean, Lauren and I will sometimes go speak at schools now. Many of these schools would have thrown my application in the trash on first glance.
Ironic, isn't it? I taught at Columbia, and at a graduate level, and my grades weren't good enough to get into my own program.
But what I tell people, I try to point out some of these things we're discussing to the next generation, because now I'm a little bit older and I sit in the seat of a potential employer for people, and I kind of try to point out some of the things you're articulating now, which is I see these people doing there's strategies now online that teaches people how to do these kind of things, and like, hey, you work here and then you negotiate for a better job in the next one. You just do that every kind of year. Like there's people that put that stuff out there. And I'm like, yes, it will work for a short period of time.
You're treating a career transactionally. 100% it works in the short period.
100%.
100%.
But if you're going to have a career for 40 or 50 years, you are front loading. And by the way, when you're starting, you're getting the least amount of pay. As you get later into your career, hopefully you get the most amount of pay. So you're trading short periods of pay at the least amounts at the long-term expense of not being able to get the things that will pay greater amounts for longer periods.
The advice I've always given to young people is treat an entry-level job or an early-level job like it's just graduate school, like it's the next part of your education, right? You're going to school. Like, you're not going to get rich, but you're going to get the best education of your life, right? And treat it like come today. And by the way, there's nothing you can do that's going to break the company because you're too junior anyway, right? So learn how to say, I made a mistake. Learn how to ask for help. Learn new skills, learn how to create teams, learn how to be a leader, learn how to look after your colleague to the left and colleague to the right, learn how to help other people around you do even better than they thought they could because you're on their team. Like really learn. And to your point, one of the shitty things about being juniors, you have to be good at everything, right? And then what ends up happening over time is you start to find out where your skills are. And then as you get senior, you only have to be good at like 2 or 3 things.
You become a specialist.
You become a specialist. And that's the advantage you get of being senior, which is we hire you to be good at this one thing. But when you're junior, with some exceptions, obviously, but for the most part, you unfortunately have to be good at everything.
Yeah, I like that you're saying this because...
and that's school. School is like high school, I had to take every subject.
Right.
I don't want...
College, I got to refine it a little bit, but they still made me take requirements for my major. By the time you get to the outside world, it's kind of like starting in high school over again.
Yeah. In the lane of so I know I'm going to get pushback because I'm quote unquote an employer, but in the lane, like if I was coaching one of my siblings or my child, I have been met at times, and again, like I understand the loyalty part of this and I understand everything you articulated and why people are hesitant to give more to companies. But selfishly, if I was an individual, I was talking to my son, I would say, you are going to start in these junior roles and they are going to ask you to do things that are not quote unquote your job. You ever heard that when people say, hey, that's not what I was hired for. It's not my job. I'm like, yes, but the point is you're developing this broad skill base so that eventually you will transfer that skill to a specialist position eventually. And that's why someone will pay you the big bucks. If you start from the perspective of, I only do these very specific things, you are limiting your own self-growth.
May I?
You may.
And we are talking about it from the perspective of an employer. So now let's talk about it as the perspective of an employee, right? I am not advocating that you follow our advice blindly.
Of course not.
Right? What I am advocating is like one of my favorite things when I remember when I was entry level, the HR interviewer would always say to me, "What are you looking for?" It's like such a standard HR question. What are you looking for? And my answer was always the same. I said, what I'm looking for is probably akin to looking for love, but I'm looking for a mentor, right? And when you take an entry-level job, don't worry about the pay. Don't worry about how, glamorous the brand is. Worry about who you're going to be working for. Worry about the company. Worry about their culture. And when you go through the interview process, the person who you're going to be directly reporting to, evaluate them harshly if they're the kind of person that you want to lead you, right? And it's the other thing that I love about the Marine Corps. Only the Marine Corps does this. The Army, the Air Force, the Navy, the Coast Guard, the Space Force do not do this.
Space Force.
And when we have it.
Yeah.
And they're good. They're great. The Guardians. The other forces do not do this. When you go to become an officer in any of those other forces, you get trained by officers. When you go to officer candidate school for the Marine Corps, you get trained by the enlisted. And I've seen it happen. It's amazing. These young officers, potential officers, are being yelled at by these enlisted, which is once they commission, those enlisted work for them. Like the hierarchy switches immediately. That drill instructor is now more junior to the most junior officer, right? So, and they yell at them, "You want me to follow you? You want me to follow you? You need to pick up your stuff and get this right if you want me to follow you." And I love that construction, where the people doing the following are evaluating the leaders, right? They're training the leaders. And so it's the same, which is when you're interviewing, yes, you might make a little less money at this company. I hear you. And the brand, it's not a famous brand. I got it. But work for the person, because you don't work for the brand and you don't work for the money. You work for a person. And if you can choose your first 2, 3, 4 jobs, first, especially the first 2 or 3, right? If you choose the person to work for, it'll set you up for the rest of your career. So I'm not saying just get any job and do what we're saying and go through shit and don't quit. No. You can follow all of those things if you pick the wrong person, if you made a mistake.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to do, and you've just done it better, is point out the blind spots of some of that process, the thought process. Yeah. Right? Where it's like, yes, but and just think about the repercussions as you're building a career and and more importantly, a reputation.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever told you that you look like John Hamm?
No, but thank you.
Yeah, you do.
I've had Robin Williams, which I'm not sure that made
John
me feel
Hamm's better.
Yeah, way better.
From a aesthetics perspective.
Yeah.
I got to be careful.
Not a talent perspective.
Yeah. Talent perspective, I think Robin has him. Maybe not.
It's a different kind of talent, right? It's an improv talent.
Robin Williams,
you look like John Hamm when I'm talking to you.
Well, that's very, very kind.
Not that John Hamm's not talented, but Robin
John
Williams
Hamm is
John
known
Hamm's
in the
really
industry to be packing a punch down there. So that's a great compliment.
I will not comment on that.
Okay. Well, I've heard many things about John Hamm. John Hamm has a ham.
By the way, I know people who know. I don't know firsthand. I don't know John Hamm.
Okay.
And I definitely don't know him in that way. But I know people who do know, and it is true.
You know what? I do. I have this talent that I can spot stuff like that.
Is that a talent or just eyes up here, eyes up here?
No, it's not. I just can feel the energy of the guy. And
what does it feel like?
John Hamm.
So one of those things like if John Hamm turns...
Go watch John Hamm on Mad Men. That's what it feels like.
If John Hamm turns around too fast, he could take someone out. You know?
Did you see what the hell was it? Fargo with John Hamm?
So good.
Oh,
I haven't seen it.
He's really great.
He is astonishingly
you guys
good.
have a hard on for John Hamm.
You know what? Because now I'm trying. If John Hamm ever hears this and listens to this, I really hope not now because of what you've been going off on. But Robin Williams, obviously incredible. John Hamm, incredible. Different talents.
I just don't think I look like Robin Williams. That's all. It's not.
I didn't mean to go down the rabbit hole of John Hamm, Robin Williams.
You look like John Hamm.
Now I feel
you
like
have to unfuck it.
Now I feel like every
Am
kind
I
of thing.
Am I allowed to swear?
You're allowed to swear.
Every kind of thing I've said on this show, the thing I'm most worried about is that Robin Williams will be disrespected. John Hamm will be disrespected. Both of them phenomenal talent.
We got it.
Okay. Before you go, you have to tell us about quiet quitting, the epidemic of quiet quitting.
Okay.
please let's end on that because I think that's an important topic to discuss.
Okay. I think it's funny.
Okay.
Not that it doesn't exist. I think it's quiet quitting is a term that senior people came up with. Right.
So it's like a brand. Of
so here's what it is, right? So when somebody disengages at work,
okay,
senior people go, they're quiet quitting. They're quiet quitting. I want them out of this company. I can't. All this quiet quitting. We have a quiet quitting epidemic, right? But when senior people disengage, other senior people go to them and be like, "You're going through something. I feel something's. Why don't you take some time off? I think you're maybe burnt out. Maybe you're burnt out. Why don't you take a little time?" So there's the same behavior happening at the senior levels. We just call it burnout, but at the junior levels we call it quiet quitting. And of course there are always people who are like, "I'm gonna quiet quit." Like,
wait, I thought quiet quitting was you just leave and don't tell anyone and never show up.
No,
again.
Quiet quitting. No. Quiet quitting is
this whole time. That's what I thought.
No. Quiet quitting is disengaging to the point where you're doing the absolute minimum. You're completely disengaged at work. And you've basically quit, you've abdicated responsibility, and you, like I said, you kind of phone it in. And you collect your paycheck.
This whole time thought it was like somebody just doesn't show up and you think they're on vacation.
Well, you weren't present in the conversation when I was telling you about it.
No, but I heard it's the thing
I was telling Michael about quiet quitting and he wasn't being present, so he
I
needs
heard
to
it's-
meditate.
He needs some more meditation.
But what is it when someone like goes on vacation and just never comes back but doesn't tell anyone they're never coming back?
I think that's just called a virtual company.
Yeah. That's true. That's what I have.
Okay, so quiet quitting is like a fake brand that people...
I think it's an unfair brand. There are absolutely young people who say I'm quiet quitting. I think that's the minority. I think those people, of course it's happening. But when senior people accuse young people of quiet quitting, perhaps they're just burnt out. Perhaps they're in the wrong job. Because when nobody ever says somebody's senior is quiet quitting, doesn't exist.
Okay.
So I think it's a
person to ask.
mislabeled thing that we need to have a little more. If somebody's disengaged, that means we should probably be a little more empathetic and find out what's going wrong, because either they're going through something or we have a culture that is not making somebody feel included.
Let's do some of the rapid fires because I think it'd be
rapid fire
questions.
Okay, let's go. Rapid fire. Ready?
You didn't wear a leather
I know you
shirt
guys
jacket.
are like twins over here.
I got the memo that I had to wear a blue shirt with a brown shirt jacket.
A suede overshirt.
Is that what that's called?
You should have taken yours off to have a little dimension.
I know, but then I was like,
but we look like we're on a team.
Oh my gosh.
And I kind of like. I'm
the
comfortable.
outfit that we have to talk about the outfit every morning. He's worse than I am. Okay.
Did you lay it out the night before in the bed?
Oh my!
Tell me the truth. Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Tell the real truth.
Do you try on different outfits the night before?
my
Tell
God.
the truth.
I don't try them on. I do. I am traveling and living out of a hotel right now, so I did have it all laid in a hanger. I'm not gonna lie. I put it together.
No, this is what he does. He gets dressed slow so I can see each iteration of it.
I see the reaction.
So first he comes
Why are you
out,
wearing that? And so you can.
It's like the pants without the shirt and his hair's done and he wants a compliment on the hair. Then he comes out
that's
with
not
the
true.
shirt. This is 100%
Do
true.
you have photographs of outfits in the closet?
No, I don't.
Look
I don't
at
have
him
that.
this morning. I'm going to show you a picture of him this morning.
What was I doing this morning?
You were showing me how
Why'd
it
you
looks
take a picture of it?
without the thing on.
No, but I'm not sitting in my. I was having breakfast.
No, but he's showing me how it looks without this on. And
You
then,
look very Wall Street in that picture.
Yeah, he
I
thinks
know.
so too.
That's a rare shot too. I was like, that's
and
I'm
then
not
he
really
comes
look like
out.
that,
The grand finale is this with the briefcase. He does it every day.
Briefcase.
No, it's not a briefcase.
Very
it's like
retro.
a satchel. It's a satchel.
He's very stylish.
It's a big. It's a big duffel. It's not a briefcase. Is like the hard.
A satchel is a soft briefcase.
Careful, you
No,
don't
this
want
is-
me
a
to
briefcase is-
quit
a
this
brief-
relationship.
It looks like
A briefcase has rigidity to it, and a satchel has less rigidity to it, but they're the
It
same
has a
thing.
shoulder
It's a
strap.
purse.
Not necessarily.
So it's not a. It can't be a briefcase. It has a shoulder strap.
Rapid
I'll
fire
show it to you after.
questions. Favorite book you recommend, not your own.
I don't read much.
That's so interesting.
I know.
I think that's interesting.
I carried a lot of shame about it for a lot of
No.
years, and I lied about it for a lot
Own
of years.
it.
But
I
have pretty bad ADHD, and so reading a book is very. I've started a lot of books. I've
But
finished
I
very
also
few.
think you only have so much capacity towards books. Like you're writing all the time, and maybe that's your form of like learning is
I'm not writing all the time.
You
I
are?
would have written more books if I've been writing all the time.
Huh.
I've
Okay,
written
I like the
3
honesty.
books in 15 years.
There's nothing worse when someone comes on the podcast and recommends a book that they've never read.
I mean, I've only read one, other than my own, I've only read one book cover to cover,
What's that?
The Da Vinci Code.
Is it good?
I like
It's
that book.
It's good.
Wait,
Yeah.
do I need to read that?
I'll tell you why it's good.
You'll like
Because
that book.
it's written for people like me, which is it's very short sections.
Okay.
They're all really compelling that make you want to keep reading. It's the only book in my life. I was at a conference and I every time they had a break, I went up to my hotel room and read. I've never done that in my life.
Okay, I got to read it.
So it's good.
What out of all your books,
Better than
which
the
one
movie.
would you recommend the first?
Which one people
To start.
start with?
Yeah.
I mean,
Start with why.
start with why is a very good place. They do build upon each other, but you can read them independently. They're not.
Okay.
It's not a serial. I mean, start with why is a beautiful, elegant little idea. It's a great place to start. But the Infinite Game is some of the best thinking I've ever done. Very,
Okay.
very proud
That's
of
good to
Infinite
know.
Game.
I need to buy that one.
And Together is Better, you can read on the toilet. It's very short.
Read on the toilet.
Like it's got one sentence per page.
Okay. I'll
It's
get both.
it's a great, Together is Better is the best one.
Okay. Weirdest habit.
Weirdest habit.
Yeah.
Weirdest habit. I hate any kind of open cabinet. And
So do I.
And so
So do I.
I open a cabinet, take something out, close it. Open it up, and like if I go to other people's homes and their cabinets are open in
Yeah.
their kitchen, would people just leave cabinets open, which should be a crime?
Are you going to sit here straight face and say you hate that habit?
I
I don't like open cabinets.
Are
I
you-
go into other people's homes and close the cabinets because it just makes me uncomfortable.
I agree.
Yeah, that's a
You're
strange
going to
habit.
play this off as if you hate open cabinets?
What do you mean? I don't like. I like everything organized.
Admit-
I don't. It's not an organized thing.
I
It's a
think-
I think
It's
it's visual.
visual.
It's
You
visual.
don't like having to use your wrist to close. I know there's open cabinets everywhere in your tray. Like it's like a wake of open cabinets
No,
behind you.
you're reading me wrong. I like to mess everything up to clean it up, and then I like the cabinets closed.
But it stays open for how long? Many times.
What's the longest amount of time you've left a cabinet open? 24 hours?
A week.
Yeah, Ashley hates open cabinets.
The most surprising.
For me, it's minutes.
Okay. Come over to my house. The most surprising thing about success.
Most surprising thing about success.
Yes.
Such a good question. I'm trying to think of something I was surprised by. I think people think that as you gain success, you work less. And I guess that depends on money. I guess some people could. But I found myself wanting to work more.
Maybe because you find more purpose as you go on in your work.
I
so
think
it makes
focus
you
and
more
purpose
excited.
definitely. And it's not because if I work harder, I'll get more. It wasn't like that. It was just like I found myself having opportunity to do more things that interested me.
I think that's a great answer. I will say, interviewing a lot of people, you're very thoughtful on a mic. You can tell you're thoughtful about what you say. It's very impressive.
Thank you.
I like this interview a lot. Simon,
Thanks.
where can everyone follow you and find you?
Well, the usual places.
Instagram?
The Instagram, the
Okay.
TikTok, the LinkedIn, the Facebook, the
Love it.
the interwebs.
Love it. And we're going to go record a TikTok right now.
He's so excited. He can't wait.
He's
been
on the edge
He
of his
told me, he
seat.
said that's what he's waiting for the
Let's
very
go see if the cabinets are open. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Simon, thank you for coming.
So
I
much
told you.
fun.
Big
Thank you.
fan.